All right. Y'all ready? For some freedom loving, country living, self-reliant Americans in action. Rob and Sherry know just what you're looking for. They got cooking, building, installation, and so much more. He'll be coming down the mountain, won't he? This fella ain't no phony. You can know what he knows, one video at a time. Range around, country living. Range around, country living. Range around, country living. Range around, country living.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Ranger Rob Country Living Podcast. And it's me, Rob Scribner, and Dale Wiley is with me today. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Ranger Rob. How are you?
Well, I'm just sitting here out in the mountains. Thought I'd give you a call.
Oh, that's a beautiful set of mountains, though. That's just something we get to look at every day.
That's right. We're so lucky.
Something to be said for that.
Before we get going, I need to remind everybody that this podcast is an actual podcast, and you can find us on iHeartRadio and Spotify, and our main platform is Spreaker, and links to all those places are down in the description below. And yeah, come check us out. And gosh, we skipped our. I kind of fibbed the Dale last week, and we went to Vegas, right? And I had a little bit of a cold. You know, I was kind of fighting the cold, right? Well, then I get to Vegas, and it's like I made it through Vegas, all right. I came home, and that cold just like doubled on me, and it's like, oh man, I felt terrible. I tried to shake it, but I was all plugged up and all that stuff, and then I was trying to work some stuff out in the greenhouse, and it's like I gotta skip the show this last week. So.
Completely understandable. I mean, an airplane ride from Vegas is going to be worth some type of a viral infection. I don't think I've ever done it, particularly from that area, that I didn't come back. And, you know, I mean, there's a guy sneezing on the plane. I wanted to pull a plastic bag over his head one day.
Well, I was that guy. I'm sure there's a few people going, oh, I wish I could get away from that guy. But yeah, I felt terrible. I might, and the airplane trip down there and up and back, both really played havoc on my sinuses. And so it was kind of miserable, but I had a good time at Vegas. So, but talk about expensive.
Oh, I can imagine. It's, you know, I don't know what airline fares are anymore or anything. I can just imagine what the price of whatever Jet A is these days.
Well, you know, me and Sherry were, playing kind of late at night and coming back. We're like, I'm kind of hungry. Let's get a munchie. I paid $7 for a little thing of Pringles. A little tube.
It's.
And then Jay Lynch, she was with us, and she ended up paying $8 for a bottle of water. So you know, they see you coming.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I can't
anyway,
imagine
it was we just went down there with the attitude everything was going to be expensive, and we had a good time.
Free glass of Crooked River water right here.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I always make sure and do that. We've got the best water, by the way. I haven't gotten over to the comments yet, so I apologize. But of course today, Jack's here. Hi, Jack.
Yeah, Jack and Sharon both. Welcome.
Sharon's here. I need to talk to Sharon because she's kind of interested in doing going in on our pig. And I have to warn you, Sharon, I've gone co-op on beef before, but I've never done it on the other side. And I do need to warn you that Idaho pasture pigs cost more money than your typical but their quality of meat is over the top. So where you get piglets like the commercial ones, they're like $50 to $100 per piglet. For Idaho pasture pigs, they're $400.
Okay, so what? There's a kind of a little story here because I know your pasture pigs are probably expensive, but if you know where there's $50 and $100 wiener pigs right now, I need to know, because my grandson is doing a pig for the fair, and I'm kind of financing this thing to help him along and everything like that. And we have not been able to find any hogs under $350, and that's just for a young market hog.
Yeah, well, keep an eye out for I know you want the pink pigs, the commercial kind.
Yeah.
And I've been quoted. I've never really shopped for them, but I've been quoted $50 to $100.
No, that's
But
not.
Idaho pasture pigs, because they're registered and we keep the
Right.
breeds perfect, and we have to pay for that registration and stuff. Anyway, that adds to the cost.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll start looking. I didn't realize you were looking. So
Yeah, and this just came up a couple of days ago when my grandson says, we haven't been able to find anything under $350. And I mean, I don't remember the exact age, but I mean, it's going to be a market hog. He's going to raise it up and sell it at the fair and everything. Yeah. So, I mean, there's no way in hell that pig should cost $350.
Unless he was looking like because like the Idaho pasture pig has 3 main pigs in it. I can't remember. Cooney's one of them, and there's 2 others, and I can't remember the names right now just because of age. Anyway, so that's why they're kind of special. They're a smaller pig. They handle winter really well, and their meat qualities is a high standard. And anyway, so it tends to cost a little more. So so whenever I do crank the numbers out, Sharon, don't be shocked that the first number is based off of the cost of the pig, because it will be higher than a normal commercial pink pig.
It'll be worth every bit of it too.
Oh yeah, and Sharon's my bud. I'd never mess with her. I am actually, I keep forgetting I'm supposed to be marketing this show a little bit here, so that's why you see me turning off to the left. But today's show is I wanted to kind of get, my goal in life is, as a Christian, you always want to try to get the word out on faith. But the other thing is, my purpose is like people. I know some of you don't feel the pain yet, except maybe in the gas tank so far, but I'm seeing it. I don't know why anybody else isn't seeing some of the pain going on, but I just got this hunch that in 4 to 6 months, about 4 to 6 months, we're going to see stuff I haven't even seen in my lifetime. I'm already seeing some of that already. And I'm scared to death, not for me, because I've been thinking about it and preparing for it, but I am worried to death for my kids and neighbors in my community and stuff like that. That if you're not, so my question on this show is, are you prepared? And do you realize if you're not prepared, what could happen? So I got some subjects here of just, these are things you may not have considered if you haven't prepared. If we have a cyber attack, or maybe we actually get involved in this war stuff, or maybe we just have Mount Hood decides to play us havoc, or we have the Cascadia go off. It could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a half a year before we're back up and running in electricity or water and things like that. And if nothing happens, great, that's wonderful. And so you have a little extra food and a little extra water put away. What did that hurt you at all, other than the fact that the next time you go shopping, you can buy less because you've got stuff in the pantry already? So I made a little list and of just things to consider. And one of my first things on the list is here we are on this show right now, trying to get people to start preparing, start thinking about putting a few extra things in the pantry, and maybe have some extra gas and things like that, and just watch the news, and it kind of tells you what you need to do. My question is after something happens, how willing are you to help others? That's the first thing, because these people that keep ignoring us and saying, well, I don't feel the effects, I'm doing fine, no big deal, I can handle the extra. Well, a lot of people can't. But when that time comes and you cannot get fuel, and you can't go to the grocery store, maybe the electricity is gone because they may have food, but they can't do a transaction. What if you didn't get any cash? all those kind of things like that. Um, and something's happened. Suddenly you go from, I've got everything in the world, to crap, I can't buy food. I can't get water. I'm so used to having all these things that have been at our fingertips all the time. What are you going to do if someone comes and says, your neighbor, you've been warning your neighbor for years to add and grow things, and they don't? What are you going to do? What would you do, Dale?
Well, I mean, you bring up some really good points there, Rob, and everything. And yeah, if these people haven't grown tired of hearing us tell about preparing, and it's kind of what Jack just said. First off, just stock food to the rafters if you can. The American people have this habit of categorically denying that anything is wrong in their world. As long as the line isn't too long at Starbucks, their cable bill is paid, and nothing screws up their Amazon deliveries for the day. And if that's fine, that's about 70% of the people out there. And what you're going to see here, you're looking at high prices, you're looking at fertilizer, you're looking at all this other stuff. We're still not dealing with 2022 agricultural products yet. Okay, we're still dealing with the 2021 line of stuff. Even though proteins, cattle, meats, and stuff like that, we're dealing with 2022s. Obviously, you're seeing the prices go way up on that type of stuff. And when you're really going to start seeing the problems hit is fairly soon, really, two months, maybe 3 months, to where we are completely out of the 2021 agricultural production cycle at all levels. There's no more grain coming in from last year. It's all been sold and everything. And we're waiting for the harvest to start. Usually starts 1st of July up north, moves south. And that'll start refilling that commodity funnel right there. And then you're going to start to see, first off, you're either going to see shortages because the production is going to be down because the farmers cannot afford to pay $980 a ton for nitrogen fertilizer. So they've cut back on that. Their yields are down. Prices will go up, but the yields are down. And eventually that will catch up in the supply chain in a big fashion. And right now, and I'm doing this, and a lot of people I know are, every spare penny I have is being spent on food and other types of stuff. And I just looked at a Facebook message from a friend of mine, and he says, I don't know, I don't have any more room in my closets or anything else. I'm like, dude, you better start stacking this stuff up in your bedroom and stuff, because that's what I'm doing and everything. And I've got a good solid year's worth of food here, and I'm not letting off. I am going to keep just pounding it and hammering it and everything else, because right now when your food prices are going up 20%, you're dealing with 25% inflation. Food and supplies is the best investment for your monies there could possibly be right now. Get the hell out of the stock market and buy food and have yourself prepped. Because we haven't seen it. You're going to start, in towards the end of the summer, August, September. Yeah, things going to be a little different.
And the other thing I want to bring up is medications, and a couple things about that. One is most of our medications come from other countries, and we're getting along so well with those other countries.
Yeah,
and along with that, you get your transportation, and you got there'll be shortages. So something happens tomorrow, and suddenly you can't buy something at the store, or you have medications you're taking, and things also you want to consider is antibiotics and things like that, because hey, if we're offline for a while and you cut yourself, or you cause some infection, or you get problems with your lungs and breathing, or a cold and things like that, we have this magical stuff called antibiotics. What are you going to do? I mean, that's the main thing that killed people before we actually even came up with antibiotics. Now, I will tell you, there's the new system, and if you watch Canadian Prepper at all, in fact, today he came out with a show about a set of doctors that got together and have created there's like 4 main antibiotics out there. And they've actually created a kit where you can actually order antibiotics with instructions of how to use them and get it legally through prescription through these doctors online. And I believe the cost is just over $200 for this pack and information of how to deal with it and actually get real antibiotics, not the kind you get from your aquarium. So
Yeah.
anyway, so there is some solutions to that. And I know they're also working on people that have prescriptions that are, life-saving kind of prescriptions that you may want to try to have a backup of. I mean, if there's a prescription out there that you're taking and you won't live if you can't get it anymore, you might want to get a little bit of a backup out of it. So if your doctor won't cooperate with you, you can actually find doctors that will work with you, and they'll qualify you and do all the things legal that needs to be done to take care of your medications. But what would you do if something happened? So that's another question: is are you preparing? If you're not prepared and this happens, what's going to happen if you need medications? That's another one. I've got more on my list, but I'll let you add on to that if you like, Dale.
Well, yeah, people definitely going to need medications, and that's one of the things that's been along in this whole thing. Doctors are like, well, we're only going to give you 30 days. No, I'm thinking like 6 months here would make me happy, and I don't take that much prescription medications or anything like that, but I do like to have some antibiotics around and everything. I have some health conditions that if they go the wrong way, I need rapid antibiotic interventions and everything. And if I don't get them, then I'm probably going to die of ugly death and everything. And I'm not looking forward to that. And so we've done that. We've stocked up. We're come from a family of nurses and paramedics and police officers and everything like that. So we do have our own trauma kits and everything, and we're capable of doing a lot more than we probably want to or should and everything. But I mean, that's still good to have that skill set and that training in there on there. So yeah, any way that you can, and these are not uncommon things like you're talking about, these doctors and everything else. I've talked with some people right close to both of us and everything else that are involved with groups that have treatment capabilities and everything outside of the hospital scenarios and everything. So that's a key factor. Jack talked about the price of wheat. The price of wheat on the 21st was $11.19 a bushel. That is absolutely astronomically expensive grain.
So forgive me because I don't follow that one. So what's considered average or
I would probably, I mean, it's been running down in the $8-9 range and everything, but I mean, it's a commodity. And so there's a lot of people that are anticipating crop shortages. So they're going to short the market on wheat and everything over the next, I mean, here you go. We're going to plunder the commodities market because Wall Street's not yielding the huge bazillions of returns because it's only moving 500 points a day. That's another scam in itself. And everything, but I just, I throw that out there. And I mean, at 11.19.25 a bushel, I'm sure there's all kinds of calculations and everything else out there that would tell you how much, how many loaves of bread or something like that you're going to get out of there. But I mean, just understand that number is going to increase and everything. So yeah, it's medicines, all this kind of stuff. It's all part of stocking up. And when we're talking about prepping, we're just not talking about food and everything else. We're talking about this other stuff that you're going to need because, and I don't think either one of us probably thought that we were going to get as close to what's going to happen as what I think both of us think is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And that it's to the point of that I'm so convinced that, basically we're already in a shit hit the fan situation. We've been there for a good, probably almost a year type of a thing and everything. So, it's just, how is it going? How's it moving along? How's it going to progress from here? And I mean, my thing is that I'm kind of tuning out everything. I still watch my preppers out there on the various platforms and everything else, but I'm not giving them a whole lot of time because I completely understand what's going on. And my time is better spent working on my preps and everything else than it is, analyzing what these guys are telling me that I've been listening to for 6 months and everything. So, I can't stress this enough that you really got to get after it, people.
So
Or
for your homesteaders out there, if you guys don't watch Living Traditions Homestead, I've always enjoyed them, but they brought up a good point the other day, and I might have brought this up before, but anyway, they made a video the other day and said they're not going to do the Cornish cross chickens, which is a meat bird, a major. I mean, it's a great bird. You get it, you grow them. It takes out 2 months basically, and you got a full-grown bird that you're ready to butcher.
yeah,
You can't go wrong. Talk about good investment, fast growth, the whole works. There's one little problem. You can't breed a Cornish cross. You can't
right, or
reproduce
hybrid.
them.
Yeah,
Point that they brought up, and I never thought about this before. They're going, well, if I want to be in the world of being self-sustaining, and do repeatable processes, and I want chicken in my diet, why would you get Cornish crosses? Because you'd have to rely on ordering them from a hatchery.
yeah,
And if there's a problem out there, there's already a problem. Living Traditions were saying that they're already having trouble getting their orders. I mean, they're on a waiting list and the whole works, and it's just going to get worse and worse. And he says, well, let's find a chicken that not only lays eggs well, but is a good eating bird. And they came up with something called American. Oh, I just wrote it down. Would I lose it? From North Shore Farms, American breast chicken, which is a meat breed chicken. And so they decided that's what they're going to go with, because one is they can get eggs, two is they grow fast, they're a hardy bird, and they're wonderful to eat. And you could raise and incubate as many as you want, and be self-sustaining. And so it's like, I got to think, I'm going, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Why would you do the Cornish crosses if you can't repeat the process if times get tough? And so I was going to get some, but I decided I'm going to stick with my Rhode Island Reds. I mean, you can eat any chicken, but I'm sticking with Rhode Island Reds.
That's my point right on this one right there. Okay, chicken's chicken. Okay, I get the crosses. They probably gain better. They yield faster. They dress out quicker and everything else like that. But it's just like you said, if you got to order them in from somewhere, you're dependent upon somebody else in a host of other situations. They're going to screw you up, guaranteed, somewhere.
Yep.
And everything. And this comes from a farm kid that grew up, and we had free ranging chickens and everything. And, we got the eggs and everything else. We never bought chickens. We had plenty. We would eat them. I would catch them and take them to the Woodburn auction and make money and everything like that as a young man. And it really don't make a difference. Figure out how to be sustainable within your own sphere of influence.
Exactly.
And on your own homestead. Eliminating outside requirements is the key of that.
What I needed is I have Rhode Island Reds, but I only have hens. So I actually did my order today. I ordered 2 roosters, which are Rhode Island Reds. And hello, is it Angel? Did I say it right?
Angel? Hi, Angel.
You know her? Keep up the hard work. Yep, and teach us, brother. We're teaching away here. So I did order 2 roosters, one for my current chickens I have out there right now, which are all young ladies, while they're a year old. And then I ordered another rooster for this new batch I come in. So I got 15 new Rhode Island Reds coming in, and I won't even get those till May 2nd. So I'm glad I got my order in. So now I feel better, because now I can reproduce and incubate and regenerate chickens. And I couldn't do that before. So that was an error on my part. And thanks to Living Traditions to point that out. And it was a good point. I could have lots of chicken and bring in 50 Cornish crosses, and I'll get them in the freezer. And that's great for a year or half a year. And then I'm dead in the water, because I can't reproduce chickens. So we've solved that problem. So anyway, and I'm passing that on to other folks too.
You got 2 things going on right there that and I mean, it's kind of the best of both worlds. Okay, you want to get those crosses when you can, just specifically because they come in, you raise them, you butcher them, the process is done and over with and everything. So if you planned right and you got enough, you got enough. On the other hand, if you're breeding your own chicks and everything like that, you've got a continual flow through there, and that's not a bad thing either. That you know that you're going to now you know why the old people got so pissed off when the hawks and everything else would come in and get a chicken, because that's just like taking a meal for 4 people, 2 meals right off the table.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so that was kind of a enlightenment that we had. But another thing you and I were talking is I got a note from Dale. He says, "I just got done planting 2,000 things, and I'm over here. I'm going. I've got way too many tomatoes, way too many strawberries, I think, and I've just created a whole new paddock area. I'll call it a paddock, a growing area that is humongous." And it's going to be, and we're building it right now, and I'm making these beds. I'm going to have way too much food, and I'm doing it on purpose. And the reason is that the other question that comes up on my list here that I wrote down is, if you're not prepared, what's going to happen to you if you're not, if something happens? And one of the questions is, can you feed your animals and your pets? And it's like, I'm going to be producing so much food over here that will still feed my pigs, my chickens, and my dogs and cats if I have to. They'll probably be a little leaner than it was before, but they're not going to starve because you'll say, well, Rob, you're going to be wasting a lot of food. Not at all here. We got composting, we got animals, and one of the things that me and Dale are going to get together on, and I kind of nudged him. It's like, he's kind of like, well, he's doing the same thing I am, growing humongous amount of food, way more than you can eat, and take it down to the farmer's market, and maybe advertise a little bit on Facebook that you have this stuff. And by the way, I'm selling more eggs now than I've ever sold before, and I'm hardly marketing at all. It's just a couple of people who say, you have brown eggs? I go, yeah, we have not only brown eggs, we have really quality chickens, and they're all purebred. And we get really large brown eggs. And as networking has been going on, I've got tons of people buying our eggs, and I haven't really advertised at all. So it happens. And so, yeah, you can actually make a little money if you got a little extra. If you got a little extra here, none of it will go to waste, even if it's 5 times more food than we can eat. And there's people I want to give it to also.
Well, yeah. I mean, giving it away, that's part of the fun. And, back in 2013 and everything, I decided I wanted to grow a truck garden and everything. And I did. I put about, and I went all in, about 1.5 acres, drip tape and all that type of stuff. I grew way more food. I sold some, but I gave more away to food banks and people that wanted to come out and do that. And that's kind of what I'm doing here now on this one. I'm getting this thing nailed down pretty good. My little garden will produce me somewhere around 300 pounds of potatoes. And there's no way I'm eating that many. Potatoes don't store that well, so it's kind of thing of the season. But I mean, I can give those away, take them down to that food bank on the Wednesdays or something like that. Because really, there's an economy of scale and growing stuff that at that level that you have enough for yourself and everything. And people, we're kind of I've seen this pop up. Oh, we need victory gardens and all this with whatever else is going on. No, you just need to grow some produce. Okay, I mean, produce is only 30% of your diet. So if you try to grow half of the produce that you need in your diet, you're going to come out ahead on this thing, no matter what. And unless you want to get hard into the canning and the preserving and everything else, and that's a whole nother world there. And that's just straight processing of production agriculture. And so you've got to you got to have this thing work. And I can make it work. I've got to have the beds cleaned out and ready to go for bedding plants, so everything's clean to go now. That stuff's got to be out, and I got to be ready to plant in the garden sometime around the 5th of June type of thing. So you got to get it. If my potatoes, if I can't give them away, then I guess I'm putting them in a bucket and bring them to you, and you can dump them out to your pigs or something like that. They're not going to waste. Nothing's going to waste.
I did that once. Don't give raw potatoes to pigs, by the way.
Really?
It makes them upset. It's no worse than people. I learned the hard way. Anyway, if there's certain foods out there that you can't eat that'll give you upset stomachs, like a human, raw potatoes and stuff, they say you should cook them. Then the same problem will happen with a pig.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I gave my pigs a whole bunch of
human, just like a
yes.
human.
I gave my pigs a bunch of raw potatoes, and they were sick for like 2 days. I felt so bad. I thought I was doing a good thing. Turns out it's like I got this list, and this list says don't give your pigs raw potatoes because they're you got to cook them. They can have cooked ones; they're fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah. When it comes to potatoes, though, we got a food bank here. We've got we can sell them. Plus, you can just put a couple of notes out in some of these Facebook groups and stay and say, dudes, I've got 50 pounds of potatoes. Does anybody want any? Just come on over and I'm me, And I have no worries about getting rid of food out here. So, but yeah, and like it came from the radio. He's saying it's a good thing. It's a good motto. It's a good Christian thing to do, to share and eat what you can, sell what you can, and give out what you can. And but it comes down to that point again. When if something happens and it gets tight, and we've been warning you and we've been telling you, please do something, and you don't, and then something happens, I'm going to be a little reluctant to open my door or come to my gate and feed you, because it's not like I've been doing what can do as a Christian, as a good person, as a helping the community by warning everybody ahead of time, please do something. And because when times get tough, it's going to get a little selfish out there. And I'm afraid that I might get that way. I mean, it's only human. Well, I got to feed my, I got to feed my wife. I got to feed my pets,
Yeah. And everything. And that's, people are going to see that and everything. And if anything that anybody does right now, just get out there and start stocking up on canned meats, in particular proteins of any kind, canned preferably. I'm going to, I'd say get stuff for the freezer, but my freezers are full. I don't have enough generators to run them right now if the power grid goes down. So that makes me nervous and everything. And so I would go to more canned type of stuff right now. People just get 2 weeks worth of canned proteins piled up and starches and some of this other stuff in there so that you're able to survive, some type of a problem if it comes along. I don't know if it's going to. I think we're going to see problems in that food distribution thing. And, as we move through this year, the inflationary impacts are going to be felt upon that farther down the road. The prices you're seeing down there, I think you're going to see prices a good 30% higher than you're seeing them right now, maybe even more than that.
Yeah, because you and I were talking before the show, and you'll see on tomorrow's video, I think, is I went and bought, I'm trying to get some things built for my gardens. So I ran out of 2x4s. So 2x4x8s at Miller Lumber, which is your typical lumber store where people buy quality, the best quality they can for lumber, and they wanted over $9.50 per board, $9.50 for 2x4x8. So I was like, I just about choked.
Do you know how many of those 8-foot 2x4? How many of those are used in the construction of a house?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I did go. I said, well, let me wait. I'm not going to pay $9.50. So I went to Home Depot, got a little lower grade wood, and ended up paying like $7.98 a board. So I got it a little more cheaper, but still, I'm used to $3.50, $4 a board, and it's doubled. It's absolutely doubled, and I need more. I'm not done buying 2x4s to build all these boxes I need to build, and I got that. I've got a pig house to build and a farrowing thing to build. And, yeah, I mean, I don't have a choice but to pay these higher prices. And, it hurt. I mean, Sherry and I, we do all right. We're not rich or anything. We get by just fine, but that hurt even with our kind of income. And we're lower middle class. I'll say that. And that hurt. And then that same day I decided, well, I better pick up more feed for my pigs and chickens. So I bought 6 bags of Hog 14 is what they call it. and they're 40-pound bags. And I bought 2 bags of chicken layer crumbles, and that cost me $130. So right after I did the lumber for $130, I ended up getting feed and spent another $130. And then I'm still building some other things for the homestead. So I just got some uh, fabric weave. I don't remember what I paid for. It was like almost $200 for 2 rolls of 300-foot fabric weave, so we can get our new area ready for planting. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling the pain. And and I know those people are got tighter wallets than me and Sherry do. And it's like, you can't tell me that with all this going on, that this is not hurting you. And of course, I went to the grocery store yesterday, and it was. I don't normally spend more than 150 because I get more top off things. And I don't even really buy my meat at a grocery store anymore. I order it. Anyway, that was $230. And it was like, wow, I just got done spending well over 500 and some odd dollars for me and Sherry and our pets and animals. And so,
you can kind of throw that in the term of, are those discretionary items, or are they stuff that I have to do to live and farm this year out and everything, and I put that in that's the stuff you got to do to make the homestead work for the rest of the year and everything. So they kind of got you by the short ones there and everything. You're going to have to pay those inflated prices. Now you can see that, if you were trying to sell animals or something, how that's all related. People are going to look at this stuff and evaluate every penny that they have to spend on stuff like that. Are you going to buy $250 worth of food, or are you going to buy $9 2x4s? I mean, think about the people that may have been, had a little project, or I'm building a little railing around deck. I need some 2x4s and everything else, and they're $9 a piece. Maybe we can wait. It's a commodity; it'll come down. Who knows when, and everything else. But and I see the food prices and everything, but I just I kind of like dollar averaging type of a thing. I've got a bunch in here, and if that's my tool, whatever type of thing. I just don't want to have to be in a situation that, particularly on food and everything, that you're going to run into and not be able to fulfill that and everything. And so if you have to, diesel, $5.79 a gallon. Today when I came through Terrebonne there. Okay, I just built a little RV pad here at my place and everything, and that took a couple truck and transfers of rock and a bunch of work here and there. And I probably went through $60 worth of diesel just on a little 25 horse Kubota tractor to move this rock, and I'm like, I can't afford too many more of these little projects this year.
I know. It's like, well, I was like, after Vegas, we're going. May be our last vacation for a long time. It's like, wow. But so one of the other things is like on my list here is if something was to happen, do you have any family plans? Like, do you have like some kids? Oh yeah, I won't forget about that. we got the hat trick here we got to do. It's really cool. Anyway, but before I do forget, is if you are prepared or getting prepared, do you have family members where maybe they're running a tight budget, or maybe they're out of state, but that they may have trouble? They may end up coming up to your place, stuff. Do you have plans for your kids? Maybe you have some in college. What if they're in school and something happens? Have you sat down with your family and made any family plans of how to regroup and get together and help support each other? Because I know Dale, just like me, I prep not only for my family, but I also keep my kids in mind, even though they're grown up and they're adults and stuff like that. But they're young, to say that. And so even though they see their father and mother doing what we're doing, they still kind of like, we'll let mom and dad worry about that. And then it's like, we're trying to, it's like, you guys need to worry about it too. But anyway, we do keep in mind that we have family members. Plus, we're caregivers, so we may end up with Sherry's mom back here, who's very frail, and that'll be really tough. It's like to sustain her needs and all that stuff, along with all the other stuff. If we were have no electricity, and in her case, it's like, What's going to happen when our oxygen runs out? Or can we keep our oxygen machine working? Things like that. I mean, and I ask that question to you. Do you have somebody that's on medical that may need oxygen or prescriptions and things like that? Have you planned it all? Are you prepared? Are you thinking about that? And in fact, you got to get beyond just thinking about it. It's like you got to have something in place, because hopefully if something was to happen with our power or something like that, it's a temporary thing. But if it's not, we're going to be in trouble big time. And
well, that would kind of relate back to your comments earlier about cyber attacks, because that's where the problem is going to come from with our grid is going to be cyber attacks. It's not going to be any kind of failure of the actual infrastructure of the systems themselves. It's going to be a command and control failure that's implemented via, the various systems. I'm fairly familiar with how that works, especially with water distribution and everything else like that. And it would take a little bit to override it manually. It could be done and everything else. And not in every case. In the ones I'm familiar with locally here at Redmond and everything else, they could be overridden and everything. But that one's going to be a problem if it happens. And that kind of throws you back to the, freezing is not the best idea in the world right now for this kind of stuff.
And with cyber attacks and stuff, that really the best way to get to us is to go after our financial institutes.
Yeah.
Make credit cards not work, make ATMs not work, that means that affects everything. Your gas, everything, paying bills, everything's gone. And what are you going to do? And do you have cash?
Well, I think
before we go any farther, I don't want to forget about your hat.
The hat, okay, here we go.
Dale has created the hat with scenarios in it.
There it is.
So,
scenarios.
We used it once, and we keep forgetting to do it. So he's going to pull something out of the hat, and let's discuss it.
Okay, let's discuss it. Well, I just mentioned this one here. It says you walk out into your pantry area, and you notice that your freezer is no longer running. That is completely packed full of proteins and everything else like that. What do you do? And everything. So, we've talked about this a bunch of times and everything. And I'm making an investment here pretty soon in a whole house generator. Not top end, not bottom end, but you can. And I'll tell the people you can get one at Harbor Freight for $2,200, 9,500 watts, that will run your whole house and everything. And so if that happened to my freezer, I'm probably going out under my deck, pulling my 3,500 watt out and going ahead and firing it up and everything. And then I've got to figure out how I'm going to keep warm and everything, because I heat with electricity. Bought a couple of those little buddy heaters, put one out in the greenhouse the other day. It did a hell of a job. I ran it for almost 3 days on a 21-pound propane canister. I'd run it about 8 hours a day overnight and everything. So those are the two things I would think there. So this part of prepping says, imagine what could possibly go wrong and ruin everything that you've done so far, and then prepare to deal with that, because it is going to happen at some point in time.
So that's one of my biggest fears is, like, I have generators, but I only have 80 gallons of fuel on storage here. And so it's like, should I increase that number? Should I put a few more gallons, buy a few more 5-gallon things? And with today's prices, you're talking $50 to $60 just for each one of those.
Okay. Yeah, on our next show, maybe next week, I'll dig through the files here. I knew, because I ran the calculations as to how much fuel it was going to take to generate X amount of kilowatt hours to keep my place going. And then I threw into that, how much propane is it going to take for me to stay warm and everything else like that. And you think, I got a couple of 21 pounders, I'm good to go. No, you're cold in about 2 days, if that. So I went out $65 for the big, what are they, 40, the big propane canisters and everything, $65 at Weimar. Bought a couple of those and got those. Those are good for about, if you're running heat and everything else like that, I could probably get 5 or 6 days out of them like that. But then I'd be out of heat. So, the amount of propane that you would have. And then conversely, the propane is more efficient than the gasoline is for generating the electricity. And now these numbers are in my head and I can't remember what they were because I ran through that to see it. I got about 50 gallons probably of gas and about the same of diesel right now. And that's maybe a week's worth of generator runs if I ran at peak times type of things. I probably am not going to be able to fire the thing up and just let it run.
Yeah, I decided to kind of put all my eggs in one basket on the pellet stove. So my goal is to keep the pellet stove fired up as long as possible. But then I also have the Mr. Buddy heaters. But now that I found out how to put those little fans on the top of them, I got to find some of those fans because that is amazing. And I have the same problem with my greenhouse. Is like I would use a Mr. Buddy if I had a fan on it because that would probably help my greenhouse stay a little warmer so I can get my stuff out there a little earlier during freeze times. But I've been kind of looking at one of those energy things that Jack's talking about, but the numbers scare me away most of the time because normally everything I'm looking at is $5,000 or more.
Yeah.
And, I'd like to have one of those.
This one at Harbor Freight, I'll get the link and I'll share it with you and everything else. Good. My son was looking at it and everything else. And there again, if it's Harbor Freight, I'm not looking. If I can get 9,500 watts for $2,200, that to me is a good investment, right there, because I am an old man. I don't have a pellet stove or anything. I heat with electricity, and these little buddies, they'll work fine and everything. In fact, the one I had out in the greenhouse, of course, I still had electricity. So I had a little milk house heater going in there pushing whatever little bit of heat it did, and the fan moving it around. I'm holding 10 degrees above the outside temperature right now. So, perfect greenhouse growing conditions, absolutely not terrible, really, and everything else. But nothing's going to croak, nothing freezes up or anything like that. And the plants are actually probably going to come out of it a little bit more harder and ready to go than if I just blasted the heat to them and everything. So, you have got that factor.
Yep. I do want to make sure I also, that was actually, let's pull another thing out of your hat and see what you got.
Pull another one out. We got, like I said, we've got trials and we've also got a couple of blessings in here. So I don't know exactly what we're going to come up with. So out of the hat, this is kind of a blessing. It says the flowers you saw are on markdown at the store. So buy your significant other some flowers while you're at the store. So, you can't forget about being nice to each other and everything else like that.
That's true. Very true. In fact, you won't believe, I've been married forever. And when Valentine's came, I don't usually, two problems in our household. My daughter was born on Valentine's Day. So Valentine's Day has always been my daughter's birthday. So we just never really celebrated Valentine's Day. Well, just the other day I was in Terrebonne. It was like Valentine's Day. It was like, oh my gosh, flowers. Wouldn't that shock my wife? I actually bought her some. So I actually bought them. And so now when I go to the Terrebonne grocery store there, I keep looking at the flowers. It's like, okay, I'm going to start doing that a little more often for no reason whatsoever. And so, yes, it's a little blessing. People need to do that.
I got to pull another one out. I did because this one's quite a bit darker than that one.
Oh yeah, bring on the dark.
Yeah, bring on the dark. And there's a little bit of a supporting story here. It says you have a fire at your house and you cannot live there for 4 months. Okay. Ooh. Up in Alaska, people that live in Alaska, they have two houses. They have one big house that they live in, and they have another smaller cabin like that. That's not their main house, but does have provisions and everything, because when your cabin catches on fire and burns to the ground and it's 50 degrees below zero, you better have some place to go, and it better be close, and you better be able to make it happen because nobody's coming to help you and everything. And so that, at worst, and I know people that live up there, one guy pitches an elk tent in his backyard every winter and leaves it all up and everything. So You know, I mean, that's a horrible thing. You don't want it to happen to you. So make damn sure that everything you do is fire safe and that you've thought about this, and don't do anything crazy or anything like that, because a complete, loss of preps at that level, you're screwed. You're done at that point in time. You are down at the mercy of the elements in the world.
And that's one other thing I want to put a kind of a heads up of people that own RVs.
Yeah.
Like I have this beautiful fifth wheel out there, and so if our power was out really, for just a day and stuff, we could easily run right out to the RV and use our stove and oven in there and finish up dinners or anything like that. It was temporary, and also if we had freezing temperatures with the amount of propane I have, I could probably go almost a week with heating in there. I could probably get, if I really minimize it, maybe a whole week on the 2 propanes I have for that rig. So
Yeah.
it's kind of nice is having an RV, people, is like that secondary home in your property. And so I would highly recommend that you keep it kind of ready to go, and in case you need to use it. So don't use it as storage where you can't even go in there and sleep or anything like that. An RV can be a real lifesaver or a temporary housing while the power's out in your big home that you can't heat at all. And so I always feel like it's a blessing that we have that RV in our front yard.
And that's true. I mean, you remember the fires over in the Santiam Canyon last year before, and everything. Those happened so fast, and people like me would have been out of there a long time before everything burned down, And we don't really have that fire danger here in this area. But if I did live somewhere like that, my pickup would be sitting down there with the trailer hitch right under the ball of the trailer and everything, and me ready to be. I can be hooked up and out of there. Less than 5 minutes type of thing.
Yeah.
And
plus
at least
a couple of those survival buckets of food, dry freeze, and you're set to go. Just leave that in your RV. Make sure you have some water available and bug out, and you got food and water.
That's where mine are stored, and everything. And I don't keep water in the holding tank or anything, the potable water tank like that. I do have 2 5-gallon jugs up inside there and everything, because hopefully it won't happen when it freezes, but if they freeze,
I'm the same way. I'm totally winterized out there, but if I had to get it up and running real fast, I could do it.
There we go.
Did I lose you?
No, pop-ups came up on my screen. Yeah, and that's a key factor. We could talk. It'd be interesting just to have whatever different prep scenario disaster that you're going to be encountering and everything else. And I think the stuff that we're encountering, we've kind of went, from one end of the spectrum here to the other on this podcast tonight. We've talking about food shortages and everything else like that. Now we're talking about a natural disaster, and so then we've got all the problems with the economy and everything else. So the threats are multi-pronged. They're out there at every element. And as we move through this year, our fire dangers will increase in some areas of the country, in everything. And so you kind of have to adapt to something like that. So having an RV and really, right now RVs are holding their value, even in the lower class ones, and everything. They're getting a lot of use. There's a lot of people that are living in RVs right now.
Yeah, that's for sure. So 2 things I'm going to touch on. We have to go really fast though, but is on my list I want to make sure is, have you considered communications and news if something was to happen? Like, do you have a radio has a backup AM FM radio? I actually ordered one of the ones with the cranks and the little generator in it, and I have that as a backup. And so the last thing we want to do is, the main thing we want to do is, if we can at least get AM and FM, maybe we can catch some local news to kind of tell us what the status is of the emergency we're dealing with. That's as far I'll go on that one. We can talk about that more.
If we're getting reliable information from that particular source in there. I have ham radios in there. KF7YMH is my call sign. I'm up here at 2,800 foot elevation. I have an antenna 35 feet up. I can hit repeaters. I can talk to people 200 miles away from right over here on my desk and everything like that. And then I can also talk locally as well. And these people are going to be clued in. I've also got, multiple police scanners and everything like that. So you've got to be your own news source.
Yeah. And then the last one I want to make sure is, okay, so you got this water, you got this food, and you got your property and animals and all that stuff. And and Jack's on board with you.
There we go.
I'm going to bring it up, and people don't like to talk about this, but can you protect what you got? And it's like, guys, I know there's people out there. It's like, I don't want anything to do with a weapon, and it's just, I may have some kids around, or I just don't like them and stuff like that. And I think you're going to feel a little bit different if stuff hits the fan, and you find that you need to protect your property, protect all the work you did, all the medical, all the food, all the backup, all the things you're doing to protect your family. If some folks come along and say, I'm just going to take it, how are you going to feel?
That could easily happen in your urban areas in the city.
Definitely.
It just, I mean, that, anytime you concentrate people sociologically into large areas, and it could be in different parts of the city. It's not going to be in the $20 million houses in Bend, but it's going to be down here in Redmond at a couple other places like that. I mean, just for your own personal security, I think people have to look at this thing and understand that just exactly what you said. You've went to all the trouble to get this stuff and put it together. Why would you put that to risk, if somebody else was going to take it from you? Now, I realize that could be a huge mindset and a different change for people than they have been. But face it, people, that's what you're going to have to do in these situations. Otherwise, they're going to come take your shit and you're not going to have anything. And so you've got to get that in your mindset. The training is out there. The training can be purchased. It can be watched online. You can meet up with people and do trainings and everything. I'm fortunate. I have military background in my family. I have law enforcement background. I'm trained to that level or higher than the police officers on the street. So I'm very confident in my ability. And it's a huge thing. It's just not going out and buying a gun or the bad word there, and deciding this is how. No, there is a whole world of this stuff that you have to train yourself in and everything. And people, you've got to do that, because will it get to that point? Will we have pirates at street intersections and everything if you're moving around? I don't know. It could get there, in a night, but I'm not going to wait for the time then to figure it out. I know what I'm confident. Any place I go, anything I do, I'm capable of my own personal security in those in my immediate area and everything. And so I don't worry about that. I have that level of training in mindset, and people absolutely have to adopt that.
Yeah. And I know there's so many people that are so woke and they think they shouldn't have that kind of stuff, but I know you will feel so much differently when you need to protect your stuff. And then the other thing I was going to bring on is, if you're storing stuff and you do have preps and stuff like that, don't put them all in the same place. If you can spread them in different places, or like my shop, I have tons of these moving boxes. Why don't I put some of my preps in those moving boxes? Because nobody would be able to tell that that's actually food in those things. And it's like, I got great ways to store extra food and things like that here on our stuff. And it's not as likely to be as a problem here on our ranch because we're so spread out. But when I lived in Mesa, the first thing I can imagine is people breaking in and taking my stuff for food.
And there are areas, the area I come from the valley, was a rural residential area, very much similar to what we've got here. The properties varied in size a little bit more. And we had issues with people that lived in the area. We had issues with some people that moved in across the road that were of questionable what they were doing for their money. I knew damn well what they were doing for their money and everything else. I'm telling you that it was head on a swivel time over there in that situation. And so demographically, every area is going to be a little bit different in everything. And I mean, it just, I
got to catch up, Dale. So we're at the end of our time, and I appreciate everybody who's been watching. And if you catch the show after it's live, please leave comments. We'd love to read them. And so, yeah, I want to thank everybody for watching, and we're going to go ahead and shift on out. So have a great day, everybody.
Take care. Nice talking to y'all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching our video. Please take the time to like, subscribe, and share our videos all over the whole wide world. Thanks.